I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there, Price of Reason here with a series review. As many Doctor Who fans know, this franchise has had its ups and downs throughout its 60 years of existence, but from the introduction of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor with Chris Chibnall taking over as showrunner, the Doctor Who franchise had sunk to unprecedented lows both in quality and in viewership. By making the show extremely agenda-based and pushing divisive modern-day ideologies, the franchise went off a cliff, alienating the majority of its longtime fans in the process. And just as the show had already seemed to be on the verge of cancellation, in 2021, a few developments happened that seemingly saved it at the 11th hour. First of all, Russel T Davies, the producer, showrunner, and writer who successfully managed to relaunch the franchise in 2005, would return to lead the show creatively, which on the surface had seemed like a positive development. Later, it would also turn out that well-liked and well-respected actor David Tennant would return to the iconic role of the Doctor for 3 special episodes as part of the franchise's 60th anniversary, before being replaced by actor Nishuti Gatwa, who would then take over the Doctor role. All of this had sounded okay, but there was one tiny catch. Moving forward, Disney would enter the franchise as a partner, providing funding for the show in return for international Disney Plus distribution. And with the BBC, Disney, and even Davies himself being so political these days, the big question was, would Davies' second tenure of shepherding the franchise still focus on escapism, or would it lean more heavily into identity politics, which we're so used to seeing in entertainment today? Well, with the premiere of Doctor Who, The Star Beast, we finally got our answer. Now, if you're a 2023 social justice activist, you are likely to have enjoyed the messaging in this episode, but if you're an actual Doctor Who fan, this probably wasn't the type of special that you were hoping for. In this video, I will go over the episode's general plot, what I didn't like about the episode, what I did like about the episode, followed by my official score. The episode starts off with David Tennant's Doctor and Catherine Tate's Donna giving testimonials to recap the Doctor-Donna storyline. I suppose that this was meant to provide an explanation to Disney viewers who have never watched the show. Personally, though, I think this segment feels too much like the Real Housewives of Atlanta, which feels out of place here. But then the opening begins, and it is one of the only things that I actually did enjoy about the episode. You hear the theme song, you see the TARDIS, you see the names David Tennant and Catherine Tate, and for a brief second, there's this comforting, nostalgic feeling. The TARDIS arrives in London, and the first person the Doctor runs into is Donna, which is pretty much the one person that he wasn't supposed to meet. Because for those who don't remember, if Donna remembers her past with the Doctor, it would cause her to die. Regardless of this plot convenience, it's nice to see David Tennant and Catherine Tate slip right into these roles again, as they do it so effortlessly. And seconds later, we're immediately introduced to Donna's daughter, who's more than meets the eye? Anyhow, some spaceship lands in London, so the Doctor gets into a random car by posing as a government agent and asks the driver to go after it. Conveniently, that driver is actually Donna's husband. During this ride, the Doctor learns that Donna took the £166 million of lottery money which he had given her and donated them to charity. He also learns that both Donna and Rose didn't want the father's last name because he's a beta male and the patriarchy is bad or something. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but you know what I mean. The Doctor arrives at the site of the crash where soldiers of UNIT are already there. Using his sonic screwdriver, he cuts through the fence and enters. But don't worry, we'll discuss that sonic screwdriver a bit later. The Doctor encounters a girl boss from UNIT who's doing a field job even though she's in a wheelchair. Now, just to clarify, I have absolutely no issue with incorporating and positively portraying a character in a wheelchair on the show, but placing her at this crash site feels rather forced and not organic, as this would be considered a highly dangerous and impractical situation for her to be in. But with Russel T Davies recently falsely claiming that Davros was in a wheelchair and offensive to people with disabilities, I guess he felt that he had to do this for whatever reasons. Meanwhile, Donna and Rose are walking home when they encounter some toxic male, Eastern-phobe classmates of Rose who are heckling her because she's more than meets the eye. Donna's mother is there, and when they arrive, she's worried about all these spaceship developments because she knows that if Donna regains certain memories, she could die. Then they both discuss how stunning and brave Rose is. Next, Rose, who's outside, finds a spaceship in the yard, and out of it comes a cute alien creature called Meep, which Rose finds in an alley. The creature looks very cute, so Rose makes friends with it, but the next thing you know, there are two Rorth warrior space creatures that show up looking for the Meep. So Rose takes the Meep into a secret garden shed. Meanwhile, the Doctor is still at the crash site, now using a sonic screwdriver for some tech analysis of the spaceship, something that we've never really seen the sonic screwdriver do. The unit girl boss shows up, and she recognizes the Doctor based on her files and thinks that it's a version of him from past incarnations. The Doctor then explains that he returned to this form after Jodie's regeneration, firmly cementing her into Doctor Who canon and lore. I mean, ideally, he wouldn't have mentioned Jodie at all, but nope. Jodie is very much a part of this franchise, and don't you forget it. And of course, the Doctor also mentions to Unit Girl Boss that Rose is so stunning and brave because apparently every character has to say this now for whatever reasons. The Doctor then cleverly piggybacks a ride on some unit truck going to the escape pod crash site. Unit soldiers checking out the spaceship encounter some type of energy from it that turns them evil, so now they are bad and basically working for an evil space force. Rose is in the shed where she hides the Meep space creature. Apparently she makes and sells toys online, and that's where her toy collection is. Donna shows up, and when she sees the Meep, she thinks that Rose created it. But then, as she's examining it more, Donna realizes that the creature is alive. At this point, the Doctor arrives at Donna's home, and Donna's mother tries to get rid of him because she's afraid his presence will cause Donna to die. After he enters anyways, she slaps him, and then the husband shows up and sees the Doctor with the creature. Now, this setup and execution is mildly amusing, but ultimately, it quickly gets spoiled with one of the worst and cringiest scenes in the episode. In it, Rose corrects the Doctor because he doesn't use the right pronouns to describe the Meep creature, so he asks the Meep for its pronouns. Yes, this actually happens in a Doctor Who episode, and it effectively squashes any type of escapism it could have had by bringing in divisive modern-day ideologies into the fold. As they arrive at Donna's home, the possessed evil unit soldiers are encountered by a more diverse unit soldier who hasn't been corrupted by the evil Space Force for some reason. At this point, both evil unit soldiers and those Rorth warriors show up to capture the Meep creature. In order to escape, the Doctor uses the sonic screwdriver again, which bizarrely can now do just about anything to create these type of virtual shields so they can run away. More of these Rorth warriors show up, the more diverse unit guy shows up with his team, and this becomes a big mess of people battling each other in the streets. And in the middle of all this craziness, the Doctor is able to get Rose's family out of there by basically going through other people's apartments after knocking down walls with his sonic screwdriver, which does demolition now too. At this point, the Doctor suspects that he's not getting the full picture of this conflict between the Meep and the warriors. So when they all arrive at this parking lot, he decides that he's going to act as a judge and mediate between the parties to try to learn the facts of the whole thing. As my friend Nick the Backyard TARDIS mentioned to me the other day, the powdered wig here is a bit over the top, cartoonish, and unnecessary, but to David Tennant's credit, I still think he sells this scene well. During his inquiry, Meep behaves really cute and sweet, but in a twist reveal it turns out that the Meep is actually the bad guy, and they're the good guys. And upon this discovery, the Meep reveals a weapon and actually kills them both. In addition, likely in order to push a certain agenda, the Meep then tells Donna that she has a weird child, making him an istinophobe. But since this is an extraterrestrial creature, shouldn't all humans look weird to him, and not just Rose? Yeah, don't think about it. The Doctor, who earlier revealed to the Meep that he has two hearts, uses this info to make the Meep take everybody hostage rather than killing them in order to buy them some time. Yes, it's overly convenient. Yes, David Tennant still manages to sell it somehow, but barely. So they're brought to the area of the spaceship, and all the unit soldiers are now possessed by the Meep, who plans to use a dagger drill to destroy all of London. He plans to take the Doctor, Donna, and her family with him though, and as possessed unit soldiers take them to another floor, they're greeted by the unit girl boss who uses her wheelchair to disable them. Hey, I'm not making this up, it's in the episode. You see, she has darts and weapons hidden inside of her wheelchair, and she knows just how to use them. Now again, I don't have any issue whatsoever with a heroic disabled character, but specifically, the way it's done here, it seems like the show is trying way too hard. There are certainly ways of incorporating diversity and inclusion in a way that feels more organic to the story, but that doesn't seem to be the objective of the show. Anyhow, after Donna's family is led to safety, Donna decides that she wants to go with the Doctor to help him resolve the crisis, due to some kind of instinct that she can't fully explain. At this point, the Doctor and Donna tried to disable the dagger drill together, realizing that the only way to do that, Donna has to regain her memory and then die, the Doctor orders her to leave, but Donna says that saving her child is more important to her than any other consequences. So the Doctor then concedes and helps reactivate Donna's memory by throwing a bunch of words at her, including the word binary. I wonder if that word will have any meaning later. And the second that Donna regains her memory, she realizes that she had given away all of the lottery money that the Doctor had set up for her. She then gets annoyed at the Doctor because she says it was him in her head causing her to do good deeds, and that's why she gave it up. For a second, this interaction does feel like the type we'd see back in the day, and Catherine Tate sells it exceptionally well, but this nostalgia is short-lived as this episode is about to unleash some very heavy agenda peddling. You see, after disabling the dagger drill together, Donna basically dies, and then possessed unit soldiers arrive to kill the Doctor, when suddenly, Rose is able to remove the bad energy from them and save Donna's life. How is Rose able to do this? Well, apparently because Rose is Donna's child, which means that Rose has taken half of the meta-crisis away from Donna, and since Rose is also more than meets the eye, she's able to save everybody. Yes, you heard that correctly. Rose can save everybody just because she's more than meets the eye. Now at this point, the Rorth warriors come to take the Meep creature away, who warns the Doctor that his overlords will be interested in the fact that the Doctor has two hearts. And if you thought that there wasn't enough agenda peddling in this episode as it is, the Doctor tells Donna and Rose that the meta-crisis is still dangerous and wrapped around them, putting them both in danger. But then they tell him that they can just get rid of it any time, and that if he were still a woman, he'd understand. So, just to recap, according to them, as a male presenting Doctor, this Doctor isn't as competent as Jodie's Doctor, who was female, and I guess not as competent as Rose, who is more than meets the eye. And at the end of the episode, the Doctor and Donna are inside the TARDIS, and after Donna spills coffee on the controls, the TARDIS leaves to go someplace unknown, and this sets them up for their next adventure. Now let's talk about what I didn't like about this episode. During the Chibnall-Jodie era, the show became so unwatchable that at some point it wasn't even worth roasting. It was so bad that it became unreviewable. In this case, though, all the ingredients were here to deliver something great for fans of the franchise, but unfortunately, the BBC, Russel T Davies, and Disney were adamant about making this show all about their agenda. And there's nothing nuanced at all about the identity politics within this episode. In fact, it's some of the most blunt messaging I've ever seen in anything. Now, just to clarify my position, I live in a free country, and in it, people are allowed to have whatever preferences they have and to present themselves any way they like. But there are certain issues that are very far from being a public consensus, especially when you bring in children into the equation, and therefore, I don't think that this is the ideal forum and place to focus on this hot topic so heavily and from such a specific lens. If anything, science fiction shows like Doctor Who used to be a place where certain real-world issues could be addressed through more subtle and nuanced fictional allegories, but there's absolutely no nuance here whatsoever. You're just lectured to about a hot topic, and you better agree with everything this show is telling you, or else. And that I do have an issue with, because once again, it feels like a beloved IP has been hijacked in order to push very aggressive propaganda. It's the feeling I had while watching Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars sequel trilogy, Alex Kurtzman's Star Trek, and so many more. What's especially annoying here is that as opposed to Chris Chibnall, Russel T Davies is actually competent at science fiction, which really makes this episode a frustrating watch. There are already so many bad things happening in the real world these days, so many issues that people don't agree upon, and it's such a shame that Russel T Davies decided that rather than unite his viewers with something escapist and fun, he preferred to divide them with messaging, and in my opinion, this pretty much takes this whole franchise to a point of no return. Instead of working to retcon the timeless children and maybe even Jodie's Doctor out of existence altogether, Davies seems to be doubling down on everything that drove fans away to begin with, and from what I understand, the viewership ratings already haven't been great as a result. In order to be fair, I have to point out that amidst all the crap here, there were some good things. David Tennant and Catherine Tate are true professionals. They step back into their characters perfectly, and they both seem very excited to be back. Murray Gold's music is solid as usual, and there are isolated moments where you could briefly feel the magic of yesteryear, but they're mostly drowned by the show's over-the-top messaging, and the messaging is so aggressive that you just can't get over it or ignore it. I also think that the show looked good visually, and it was competently produced and directed, at least on a technical level. The TARDIS also looked pretty cool, at least in my opinion. It certainly looked better than whatever we saw during the Jodie era. On a more minor note, while I like seeing the sonic screwdriver in use, I think that they've given it too many capabilities. Throughout the entire existence of this franchise, I think it's already been used many times as a plot convenience, but man, they really took it to a new level in this episode, and I think that's a mistake. As far as the overall writing goes, Doctor Who has always relied on a lot of suspension of disbelief and viewer goodwill, but those things become easy when there's great acting and a fun atmosphere that isn't weighed down by 2023 Los Angeles social justice issues. Once that fun is taken away, these writing issues become more clear, and this episode certainly had some of those with a few too many conveniences. Ultimately, while this episode had the potential to be something good, due to its heavy-handed agenda peddling, I simply can't give it a passing grade. If I had to give it a score, I would give it a 40 out of 100, which means that it's a fail. I also can't really see a way forward with this franchise. I think that this was the last chance to possibly save it, and now it's gone, so rip Doctor Who indeed. What did you think about Doctor Who's Star Beast? Did you love it? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channels and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.